100 liters of water to get the seeds out of the cherry and throw the cherry away. And remove the juice of the seeds and throw that away. Where do we throw it away? When there is no regulations, that goes to rivers, which is not chemical pollution, but it is organic pollution. That stuff in the rivers smells worse than cow manure in the rivers. I don't see fish around rivers, around coffee farms, as much as there is around cattle plantation, cattle ranges. Why? Because cow manure in the rivers doesn't smell bad. It's just grass that's been digested already in the stomach of the animal. But coffee, which is a fruit, really sweet, lots of nutrition to the river. That extra nutrition that goes into the river feeds the red tides, feeds the red algae, which at the end continues all the way problems in the oceans.
Wow.
And we criticize farmers for the erosion problems that happen in cattle farms, but we don't criticize coffee farmers for this. I throw 80% away. You are okay with that, right? Did I mention that we use 100 liters of water per cup of coffee we drink?
Yes.
And then we continue with 20% in your hands. And with that 20%, we dry that. After it's dry, we remove 50%, so we go down to 10%. And that dry seed is 10%. And that dry seed has to be peeled. And 17% goes away. So from 10 it goes down to 8 point something. And from 8 point something, we roast this, and it comes up a little bigger than that. You see the bigger difference in size? So people forget we are losing. Actually, we think it's the same, but in reality, this is only about 6 point something % of the production. And people don't eat coffee beans. Well, if you cover them with chocolate, you are eating 6% of them.
Okay.
But if we are brewing coffee, we are passing water through it and getting the grounds and throw them away, toss them away, like. And we drink a cup of coffee or a glass of water with coffee flavors, that we call it a cup of coffee, and it is only about 0.2% of what we produce as farmers. How efficient does this sound?
Wow.
Last 2-3 weeks ago, there was a rain in the middle of the end of January that has never happened before. I never seen a rain like that at that time of the year. I never seen coffee blooming 3 months earlier than usual. So is it a true thing or is it a false thing? Should we continue just waiting for the world to be different and just continue being lazy there, doing what I was told to do? Or should we shake up ourselves and try to see how we can make it different? Because sometimes we don't think about that. Sometimes we just go on and continue with our lives the way we built them before. So, and as a coffee farmer, I'm speaking with something that is going to hurt ourselves very much. Coffee is a product that is worldwide grown by 25 million farmers. Our choices are simpler than what we think. Because I started with something that is sensitive, global warming. Can I stop global warming? Not really, I can't. The world probably, and people together, maybe we could. All I can do different is to stop using straws, is to stop using paper, stop using, napkins, or use more of this, or using reusable filters in coffee, or using a straw to play with my coffee, or not using it. Things like that. Sometimes small changes that are in our hands every day. If we don't think about this, we just worry about global warming, a big picture that we can't stop. And all the little details that we do every day, and even more, where we buy our food, that could be a big significant difference for the environment, for people, for farmers. We don't see that sometimes.
So what do you do with like the red cherry part? What
We do
with that?
coffee tea, which you can smell right here, and coffee flour, which we can bake with it. If you smell that, it smells like raisins, like cranberries. Instead of throwing it to rivers to pollution, we can use it to feed the world.
So you use every part of the bean.
And if we use the skin and we grind it up, we can make flour. This has 16% potassium, it's got about 10% calcium, it's got about 4% protein, and it's got caffeine too, if you're interested, so we can make caffeinated pancakes caffeinated bread, caffeinated things from the flour of the coffee. And it's gluten-free just in case.
What do you do with this cherry? This cherry part? Just so you did?
We make tea with that.
Oh, tea. And you still make bags
Or
and
we
make tea?
still make wine. Wine from the juice of the coffee cherry.
So you have no byproduct,
We
very little byproduct.
very little
You use
waste.
it- Yeah.
If we don't sell it, we use it in compost. So now that I mentioned that, what would be more efficient for farmers? Sell it for tea, that in Costa Rica we don't drink tea. Sell it for flour, that the prices of flour in the stores are really cheap, and 2 sacks of them are cheaper than 1 chemical fertilizer bag that I can buy in the stores. So as a farmer, I'm not going to give this to you. I'm going to use it for compost. Because for me, if I give it for cheap money in the stores, I'm going to prefer to use it for compost. So what I'm trying is to triangle all this information to give you reasons to see why sometimes people think different, why we do things different. And sometimes why, at the end of all, coffee is not problematic. It's actually the way we've done it. The same way I can apply that to water. We can get our water from home or refill our bottles, or we can say, oh, I don't want to be buying a disposable bottle, so I'm going to buy a fancy one. Strong, that is actually very efficient, that it's supposed to last years. So if I don't take good care of this, and when I'm drinking I see that some parts of it are difficult to wash well, and I'm gonna be buying a new one then, because I don't want to drink from that anymore, I would prefer people to buy disposable bottles to do that, and reuse disposable bottles until they don't look good anymore, and then you throw it away. So it's not the bottle who can make a big difference. It's humans. So the same thing can be applied in many, many forms. For example, I like another example too, because it's so representative of things that we're questioning every day. We go to a big place called Walmart. In Walmart, we can buy products that we have chocolate with child labor. We have cotton brands with child labor, slavery. We have things that are actually very problematic for nature, the soil, the water. We have things that are bad for people, and we have things that are actually with all the products that we criticize. But in the other side, not in the other side, sometimes next to the other, there is a product that it doesn't have what we don't want. So it's actually free of child labor, free of slavery, no chemicals or no pollution, good for the water, good for the ecosystems, good for farmers, local, that it hasn't been transported miles away, but we don't go and buy local food in Walmart. All we go to buy is what looks more fancy, or what looks cheaper sometimes, so in Walmart, what I choose is going to continue supporting what I don't want, or what I want. But if I don't research, we can just go there and buy for convenience what I think is good for me, and I forget what is good to others. So maybe if I put that example, I can ask you this. What do you think? Who do you think can solve the problems of the world? Walmart or consumers?
Consumers, they vote.
We vote with our dollars every single day. And if we did that, for example, to GMOs, if we did that to chemicals, to products that we're saying farmers are getting cancers because they are using these products for farming, sometimes because that's the only way possible. And you know what happens when organic crosses customs? They spray.
No.
Because if there is a bacteria, if there is a virus, or if there is a fungus, they don't want this to go from this nature to that nature. For avoiding problems for nature, we do that spray. If it's organic, they're going to be more careful in which product they use. Maybe it has to be more quicker biodegradable, but it's still spray. And I'm really wondering if people know these things. Organic farming is really hard too. And in many ways, farmers don't have a reason to do it. Because $2,700 a year is one reason. And then when this is an organic farm and this is not organic, in the border, I have to put a lot of plants. So when they spray chemicals, they don't come into my land. When they do that, when we do that, we spend a lot of time working on that fence. But also we have to have a ditch so the water doesn't come into my land. And when inspectors come, they actually say, don't work 10 meters close to the border because that has chemicals still. So my whole farm just shrinks.
Sure.
How many farmers want to do organic now? So organic, it could be, depends on the way you see it, very bad for farmers, or if I just want to make more money, maybe it's a way of making more money. So it just depends on what reasons farmers have to do it, and how honest farmers are too. And I guess I can trust more people in my neighborhood than what I can trust an organic name in the stores. And that's what I'm trying to say right now. If we search for food, we're gonna find the differences. If we search for where that came from, we're gonna know if that is what we want or that's not what we want. So at the end, this comes into a very weird scenario because we are organic farmers. And I guess all I'm telling you is we have to be more careful about it. But that is, so when we go buy our produce, I also don't trust that because we know what it takes to do organic. So I prefer to trust our neighbors. By the way, there's a lot of neighbors who don't do organic because of the regulations. So they don't have certifications, but they actually do not use chemicals, which is illegal to say if they don't use chemicals, it's organic, because if they don't have a certification, it's illegal to do that. So worldwide there's been agreements to protect that name organic. So now farmers prefer to not use chemicals a lot of times, but also not to call it organic.
Because it's healthier for them too, not to have it spraying, right?
Because the reasons why farmers do organic is very, very important for the farmer.
Right.
That reason could be my land and produce in the future, so my next generation will have something to farm. That reason could be my health. That reason can be in many cases. So you can believe in the story that we are just charging more for organic products, or you can believe in a story that could be for a good reason. In fact, I don't know, my dad, Gerardo, he changed to organic 30 years ago. And the reason? He got sick with chemicals. But I don't think you're gonna believe that. Maybe you do, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't.
He got what, sick?
He got sick.
Okay.
So, I don't know. What I'm telling you is reasons why you should question where your food comes from. We have oranges, bananas, jocotes, nances, avocados, passion fruit, dragon fruit. We have turmeric, ginger. We don't waste the skin. We make tea. We don't we waste it and make flour. We don't waste it and make wine from the coffee fruit.
You make wine?
We'll be selling it here.
Really?
And at the end, all of this actually,
Really?
and then some people actually are kind enough to come and pay for hear me speaking, and then we add more benefits. And our farm economy is way better than what we used to have before. But 30 years later, with all the changes that we've taken, at the beginning we just hated organic farming, economically speaking. And that's why a lot of farmers, you know why I grew up hating, don't I sound like I'm an environmentalist criticizing coffee? I grew up hating environmentalists. They came here and they told us, change from chemicals to organic. But then we did a change and then they went away. And then our production dropped and dropped and we were like, who's gonna help us now?
Right.
We saw neighbors losing their farms because of organic farming. I grew up hating environmentalists and I became one. But I also grew up hating capitalism and I became one too. So I'm trying to be better of both, but not the best of both, because that's really risky. Farmers don't wait enough time to know the benefits of organic. We get scared of it and we can go back. But the fact that my dad got sick with chemicals made him realize that, oh, shall we go back and get sick again, or shall we just try more? But to try more, it wasn't just that easy. We had to do mechanic. This place here is actually built this way to work with 4 cars. 1, 2, 3, 4 cars. The cars were driving here, and before we didn't have those plans, we didn't, so that was just a mechanic garage right here. And we started fixing cars and doing mechanic, taxi driving. I started taxi driving, and that's why I did homeschooling, because going to study outside was more expensive, and then so I was able to work and study at the same time. And I learned English to work for a company. When I was finally driving for a company, I'm like, now I don't know if this is what I want. But I started driving and taking people from hotels to coffee plantations, and now you know where the idea of making a coffee tour came from, because it is actually like, well, if you have a farm, why don't you get advantages of it the more you can? And then we continue changing. So maybe the key of the success is being in diversifying. We diversify the plantation with many products. We diversify our heads, we're trying to work differently. We produce less coffee. We don't produce all of that coffee. I mean, our coffee is still this much. But it's better than more coffee with chemicals. Because when we use a lot of chemicals, we spend a lot of money on chemical corporations, and we don't spend money on workers.
Right.
And now we spend more money on our family, and we don't spend money outside that much. And so that's when at the end, things like that change and change. So the key has been changing. And the changes happen the most when you know what there is in your hands to change. And that's why criticizing what we do has become part of our way of improving. So we can learn what I can do different. And then people took us to, I'm saying people because we talk with farmers, we talk with other farmers here, there. We learn from farmers, we learn from people, we learn from everybody. People have told us also, from farmers we learn agroforestry. From farmers we learn biodynamic. From farmers we learn permaculture. From people we thought about making coffee wine, coffee tea, coffee flour, because we are not genius here. When people came with an idea, they told us, why don't you do that? That could be good for you. What do we have to do? Change or just cross our hands to expect it to be bad? So that is why at the end, the changes have been part of the success in the farm. So that and go on and on with many things. For example, I don't know, if you can see that what we throw away in the first step of the process is actually 80%, if we can find a way to make money with that, just there, I don't have to produce more. If that is 20% of the production, I could actually just make money with all that, and already the farm is going to be better and bigger. Not only by making it bigger, but by getting advantage of what is already being produced. Sometimes difficult. We've been through ups and downs, but little by little, it's becoming possible. And it's becoming more and more every day in multiple ways. So that's why, I don't know, we prefer to give you an experience that is more of the, maybe counting a little bit the ethics of this, not just the way we can sell our product. Because it's easy to sell you coffee. If you came already as a coffee drinker, I just tell you a little bit of how difficult it is and the special process we do here, and people end up paying more for our coffee. But people wouldn't be aware that there's so many choices to do different. And at the end, I think the world needs a little bit more education in that way as well. Okay, so she's now giving you a test. 3 types of coffees made in the Costa Rican. You were looking at that, right, while I was speaking, how the Costa Rican way of making coffee? Chorreador. Chorreador. We're giving you a test. 3 types of coffees per person, and be trying to taste it. How? You smell it, you feel it, you look at the coffee. Don't look at me, look at the coffee, and don't listen to me. Actually, listen to coffee. And one of the best ways of tasting is adding oxygen in your taste buds. So how you do it? How you do it? Depends on your drink. If you don't like coffee flavors, you know what you can do? Close your nose and drink it.
No, I like this. This one.
Okay.
Which tree?
Yeah,
Is it from the tree in the high altitude or the tree in the...
From our farm.
From your farm.
From
Okay,
our
so
farm.
these are all from your farm.
It's all from our farm.
Is it Robusta or Arabica?
One is the good kind and one's the bad one. Which one do you want?
The good.
But if I don't tell you, your mind is not going to choose. It's actually your taste buds. Spend $20 for a pound of coffee. You won't be able to say it's bad. Spend $5 for a pound of coffee. you will be able easily to say that.
That's true of wine.
Yeah, wine
An
is the
expensive
same
bottle of
way.
wine will always taste good.
No matter,
Yeah.
no matter. So, find out what you really feel, and you'll be able to see if you really have a tongue to like specialties, or if you want, it's something that can be the same, even though it's cheaper coffee.
Do you have
So-
some cream and sugar I could add?
This is a lot less strong.
We have 3 types. We won't tell you what it is. Probably we're gonna give you a product. I don't know what it is yet. It's probably dame el plátano. It's plantain, so you can use the plantain, not in between. After you've chosen what is good for you and what is bad for you, you can have the plantain. That fried plantain that you're gonna have is gonna give you a choice as a food pairing choice. So you can have one that you like and one that you don't, and you eat the rice, the plantain, and you can switch your mind. Because the flavors that are in the plantain are no flavors that are in coffee. When together, good coffee, can we make it better? Bad coffee, can we make it worse? It's easier that good coffee goes down and the bad coffee goes up. It could go a little bit more stretched, but it could actually be more closer. Or it could switch completely, depending on your own taste buds. Some people switch 100%. They go from the one they didn't like, from the one they like. They go from the one, sorry. Yeah, I mean, we change like that. We change because our food has to do with what kind of flavor we get. So, sometimes good is here and bad is here. So both of them drop. So, sometimes bad is here and good is here, and both of them can improve. So sometimes you still like the same one, but in a different level when we are pairing it with food. So we're giving you 2 options of food pairing. The cookie, which is baked in a local bakery, and the plantain, which is just grown in the farm and fried here.
By the way, I absolutely love your presentation. I'm like mesmerized. I've never heard anything like it.
I don't know what that word means, but
Mesmerized? It's very good.
So when people come to buy coffee, they do tasting. So they know that we're going to give them good coffee. Do you know they don't do tasting with a dark roast? Because good coffee and bad coffee, they taste exactly the same. No matter where it's grown, no matter where it's farmed, no matter the altitude, no matter the location. Dark roast tastes mostly very close all over the world.
Really?
If it's good and bad coffee, I do a dark roast and taste it the same. Now there's good and bad dark roast. That's another topic. Because good and bad dark roast happens if it's really old coffee. That dark roast can get bad.
Yeah.
But if it's fresh, I would prefer to say that fresh, low grade tastes even better than the best bean in the world roasted a long time ago. Because the freshness is even more important than the quality, talking about dark roast. Talking about coffee in general, we have a misconception of what the meaning of light, medium, and dark roast are. Because we think light coffee, but in reality it's light roast coffee. So it triangles the meaning of it and it switches it. So light roast means less roasted. So that's when less roasted, it means more coffee. Let's see that in the roasting, and then you're going to understand this, but continue with that shape in your head, because then the less you want, go to dark. But if you want more, go to light.
If you want more coffee, you more coffee taste,
Coffee
you
taste.
go to light.
But coffee taste is not related to coffee taste. Coffee taste is related to the roasting. So if you want roasting, go dark. If you want coffee, go light. If you want specialty, go light. If you want the same, go dark. All of this can give you choices to do. Let's see the roasting because it's ready. So let's see that over there. So in a very light roast has more caffeine than the dark. So the more we roast, the more everything that is in coffee goes outside. So in the roasting process, that smell that we are getting are the substances of coffee that are being released. So if you like, for example, coffee, you would like light roast. It gives you more caffeine, more flavors, more origin. If you buy a special coffee But dark roast is kind of not special anymore. If you buy dark roast, actually the flavors are more uniform. People like that consistency of dark roast though. We like it to always be the same. And that is possible with dark roast. That is not possible with medium. It is even less possible with light roast. So when we like that consistency, I guess it's good to have dark roast. Also depends on the levels of caffeine you want. There's more in light roast. Why? Because that comes out in the steam, there is caffeine coming out here. So this caffeine that you can even see now going out represents how the darker the roast, the less caffeine there is at the end. So if you want more flavors, light roast is so dynamic that light roast can go into florals, acids, citrusy flavors, fruity flavors, earthy flavors, spicy flavors, mineral flavors. It can be nutty, it can be sweet like mangoes, like it can be very like caramel. It's many different types of flavors. But when we roast more, medium roast destroys some of those flavors, caramelize the glucose, and give us a smooth sensation that a lot of people think medium roast is the light because it's so smooth, but that's because the glucose caramelized. And then the medium roast is going to continue to dark. We're going to burn the glucose. So by burning the glucose, the sweetness is destroyed, so it becomes dark. And as it becomes dark, it's less sweet, and the flavors, instead of being smooth, they go really strong, really sharp. We have more sharp flavors in the light roast and sharp flavors in the dark too. But there's more kinds of sharp flavors in the light. It's more specific, depends on where it's grown, how it's produced. But dark roast is mostly how it's roasted. So we can get good and bad dark roast, good and bad medium, and good and bad light. Light depends on the roasting and the quality. Medium, a little bit less of the quality and more roasting. And dark, you almost not depend on the quality, but it depends mostly on how it's roasted and how fresh it is when you drink it.
How often can you harvest per year?
Yeah, coffee harvesting is a cycle. It's a 1 year cycle.
1 year.
So everything we're gonna be looking at the farm through is in preparation to 1 year. I mean, one-time harvest that we do from November, December, January. So that's what I was saying. This what's going on here is about drying the seeds. We don't have the fresh cherries around right now, but so this is basically the inside seeds that are that the cherry has. So basically, when we are picking coffee, so we bring the coffee to what's called a wet process, right? And then we decide whether we want to process the cherries by the machine that would take the pulp away, and then leave this kind of nectar attached to it, which is now kind of making this dry, this kind of dark color, and this is what you probably call yellow honey. But then, in the process right there, we could also wash it all the way down, and the coffee would look like this one here. So it's the same fruit, the same seed coming from the very same cherry, but the only difference is that we wash it all. So this one would take only like 8 sunny days to dry, and this one would take close to a month because all of this nectar has to dry along with it, so it needs more sun to dry. This here is almost ready. We actually will have to take it to the storage quite soon because it's already well dry. And the whole purpose is, remember, going from a seed that is probably 50% moisture when it is picked from the plants, to a seed that would get somewhere around 12% moisture. So when it is that much dry, we can remove the remaining husk. We call it a husk because it's kind of a, well, parchment it's called, because it's kind of a paper. And then
Wow.
the moment you take that away, that's exactly the coffee that you add to the roasting.
This is it, huh? This is what's going to be roasted, huh?
So in this form, this is as far as we can go in the process before it's dry, and then we store it like that, and that's a little secret for a processing plant to keep the coffee even for a year. So we don't have to put them in plastic bags or anything, and it'll stay there as long as it's 12% or so moisture in the inner bean. We started to be able to get the cherries from the plants and process them and be able to get the parts separately without almost using any water. So we came to, okay, the cherries come to the top of this machine, and then the first part, the cherries kind of get smashed, so the pulp comes off, and then the seeds that you were looking there will continue the way to the inner part of the machine, and will continue the way to this cylinder, which is gonna be the part that is gonna wash. It's not wash, but it's all of that force that we apply with this motor here that will spin really fast, that will actually make the nectar separate from the seeds. So in a continuous process, and just with a little bit of water, like this is the much water we open to lubricate the process, then we are able to get from the cherries to the nuts, to the seeds for drying. And then we're able to get the pulp separately, and we are even able to get what we call coffee honey or mucilage separately also.
This one has a bunch.
Yeah, exactly. That form a very teeny bean that you can barely see.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that will stay there and grow for 8 months. So 8 months later, it will be as big as the ones you're looking at, except that it stays green for the 8 months.
When did your grandfather, when did he start the farm? What year?
What year? Ooh, boy, I don't know the year, but I know it's probably. I mean, you mean coffee, or do you mean the farm itself?
Coffee, the coffee farm.
That should be like 50, close to 60 years already, because we have close to 60 years old plants.
Okay.
So they started by little pieces, and this used to be a pasture land. So they went from a pasture land and corn land to coffee land.
So all the trees that you see, most of them, your grandfather would have planted to manage the soil and to manage the shade and to make for a good coffee growing, right?
So, some of them,
Because otherwise this would have been just open.
particularly the cedars. Those are thick enough now to tell that they are way too old, because cedars take a lot to grow. But some of the others, like the guava
Smaller
trees,
ones,
they are faster growers.
And that's what your grandfather
And
would
how
have
did he get interested in coffee? Why did he decide to do that?
Because coffee came to be a more profitable crop than corn. Probably they're not advertising it as organic coffee or as permaculture coffee or anything, but the good thing about coffee here is that all the farmers around here, they are native from here, so they know how to get around with the farm. So they are applying whatever they can to make it better, and a lot of that is having trees, you can tell. Of all that we have talked, we can probably summarize it as we are getting close to a forest-like environment, but we are still able to produce. Remember, we have that goal in mind of getting something out of the farm. And then by forest-like environment, if you look around, the ground is not naked. There is a lot of diversity in trees, and there is all of that ecosystem that we're building. Yeah, but the coffee is still produced, which we really want. So, yeah. Okay, well, we go this way here. Discussion about what do we do with the pulp and the nectar and all of that. And I was telling you we take it in barrels to ferment. So this is it. All of those barrels you can see over there, that's where the coffee pulp and the coffee nectar is being fermented. So it takes somewhere around 3 months or 4 months to actually get it to a stable, good amount of alcohol in it. So after that, it'll have to go through the regular wine cleaning process. Just the sediment stays there, and then we put it to another barrel and all that. And then we are really wanting to have some of those wood barrels.
Yeah, cool.
From the whiskey something. So now he is experimenting with putting
nació aquí con el papá y la mamá.
60.
Ah, 60.
Okay.
No, otro lugar de Costa Rica, no, solo aquí. Yo trabajo
Porque
desde la edad de 6
Raúl
años.
quería llevarse a la
Con papá y
gente, no
mamá.
sé si cambian.
Sí, con 6 años.
So you were raised here. Yeah,
Trabajando
okay.
Since 3 years old.
de cultura. Sí. Nosotros teníamos vacas para leche.
Oh, they have cows.
yeah.
They're milking
Y
cows.
similar con la carreta, similar con
Okay. Sí.
D-Way. No hard, no rápido, muy lento.
Very slow. Very
Oh,
slow.
right.
Sí, sí.
Yo entiendo.
Sí.
How many kids?
¿Cuántos hijos? ¿Cuántos hijos?
Hijos. Gabriel.
Hijos. Dos. Sí.
Aquel
Adele y
que tiene
Raúl.
sombrero. Allá,
Sí,
Raúl.
tiene sombrero.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
That's the younger one.
Y Gabriel. Oh, all right. I don't think I've ever met him.
I met him before.
Okay.
I took from Atenas was 1,200 cooperative farmers in that coffee garden in Atenas. You can buy it. It's very good, as good as 1820, and it's from here, from farmers. And that's something.
Is that 1820, is that a light, medium, or dark? It doesn't say.
They do have a light version. They do have, but when they are packaged. So the one they don't say, I
Y
guess.
entonces, para tostado y en la venta de mercado, de market de corcho, ¿verdad? O fair de market de corcho, es solamente 10, 14 años. Sí, 14 años.
14.
Sí, y un poquito para 15 años. Sí. Sí, para venta de café, para el tour. Y, sí.
15 years that they've been doing the coffee tours.
Ustedes viajan en ese carro. En ese carro.
Yo quiero tu familia. Yo quiero tu familia.
Mucho tiempo ya. 8
Mi
meses.
esposa y yo,
¿Sí?
10, 20, 30
60.
matrimonio. Sí.
Marriage.
You?
60. I thought 36. Costa Rica para
36. 30
Because you did
Oh,
and then that.
36. 36. You're right, 36 years.
Gabriel es 30, 34, Gabriel de vida,
Muy lento.
y Raúl es 30.
So Gabriel's
Todos los
31.
días.
Sí, de Panamá.
Sí, sí, bien.
We do have
Bicicletas y todo.